What gets me really excited about Svelte is that it's a radical new approach to building user interfaces. In the first part of this video, we're going to have a quick look as to what Svelte actually is. Then in the second half, we're going to jump into some code and actually build a small web app with it. If you're new to this channel, like and subscribe. Traditional frameworks such as React and Vue do the bulk of their work in the browser. Svelte shifts that work to a compile step that happens when you build your app. Instead of using techniques such as virtual DOM diffing, Svelte writes code that surgically updates the DOM when the state of your app changes. Though Svelte as a project is arguably hard to describe now, we know React is a library, Angular and Vue are frameworks. So what is Svelte? On one level, everybody considers it to be a framework. In another light, it is considered a compiler because it shifts the work out of the client side and into the build time of the projects and pre-compiles it. But that's not exactly accurate anymore. In the words of Rich Harris, creator of Svelte, Svelte is a language, which is true as it's written in a custom .svelte file with its own native methods with a superset of HTML. He goes on to say, Svelte is an attempt to answer a question that many people have asked, and a few have answered. What would it look like if we had a language for describing reactive user interfaces? Now, the link to the rest of the article in the quote is in the description, and it's definitely worth a look. One of Svelte's goals is to add native reactivity to JavaScript, and judging from some of the projects that have gone down the same path that he cites in his article, such as Elm, Imber, Idle, and Marco, it'll probably happen. I've no doubt in my mind that a lot of these features will find their way into native JavaScript. That's another great reason to be ahead of the curve and learn Svelte now. So where does it sit in the landscape of other front-end frameworks? Is it just another hot framework, fresh off the conveyor belt of unending front-end frameworks? No. Svelte is a relative newcomer to the holy trinity of JavaScript front-end frameworks: React, Angular, and Vue. In the State of JavaScript Survey 2019, you can see that Svelte, even back then, had the most interest over other front-end frameworks. In present day, that has only grown substantially, and many companies are now employing it into the tech stack. Svelte currently offers features that other frameworks simply can't implement, and actually offers something quite different to what we've seen before. Similar to React, it shakes up the front end and had similar ease of use when people first started creating React components. It's very quick to get going with. Now, Svelte is a compiler. It converts your app into ideal JavaScript at build time rather than interpreting your application code at runtime. It's super clever how, without the bloat of other current frameworks running in the browser, it manages to maintain full reactivity and server-side rendering without the need of the framework being in the final JavaScript bundle. Now you can decide to build your entire app with Svelte, or add it slowly and incrementally to your code. You can also ship your components as a standalone package. Svelte does not use the virtual DOM concept. Unlike the other front-end frameworks that use this concept and double the DOM, Svelte says no, there is no need. Instead, it shifts the work into a compile step that happens when you build your app. With Svelte, the code is compiled into small, framework-free, vanilla JavaScript code. It is guaranteed to be smaller, faster, and does not require the use of a virtual DOM. One of the other benefits of using Svelte is less code. I mean, who doesn't like writing less code? The less the code, the less the bugs. I'm not talking about cramming all your code into unreadable chunks of code. I'm talking about writing less code without hampering readability. Svelte was created with a goal to reduce the amount of code that developers write. With other modern front-end frameworks, there is quite a bit of boilerplate code that comes with it. Let's look at an example to update local components state using React and then see how it's done in Svelte. You can see how a lot of code has been cut in Svelte. In React, we would either have to use the useState hook or setState, where in Svelte, this got drastically simplified. You can update the state with the assignment operator directly. This aspect of writing less code using Svelte is highly appealing to me. I'm sure this is one of the top reasons for the increased interest in this new framework. Now, managing state in an application is one of the hardest problems to solve. Svelte aims to go away from the trend of using complex state management libraries like Redux. To understand this concept better, you can watch this YouTube video by Rich Harris, the founder of Svelte. Here, he talks about rethinking reactivity in front-end frameworks. The video will give you a good idea and help you to understand Svelte a lot better, and it's one of the videos that got me quite excited initially when I was looking into Svelte. One I'd highly recommend, and again, the link to the video is in the description. So let's set up a very simple Svelte app. Now the first thing we want to do is make sure we have installed npx and digit globally. So let's pop in these commands and we'll do it on one line, and we'll make sure that we install npx and digit globally. Now if this is the first time you're seeing npx and digit and you're wondering what these are, well, I'll explain. npx is essentially like npm, but it helps us avoid versioning, dependency issues, and installing unnecessary packages that we just want to try out. It's a much cleaner way of installing these node modules, and if you haven't used npx before, now is a great time to start. Digit, on the other hand, is a much quicker way than using git clone because you're not downloading the entire registry. So Digit is essentially like git clone, but it's much quicker because you're not downloading the entire git history, which you do when you do a git clone. We are essentially going to use Digit like a create React app and copy a Svelte starter project. So let's click those and install our modules. Now you can see that I've already installed these, so they're coming up with errors, but that's fine. You should, if you haven't installed these, that should go through. So let's clear that. So let's start our Svelte project. So let's use Digit that we've just installed, and we will start a project in our sites folder. So we'll call it Svelte Counter. Once that's copied over, we'll cd over to that. Now if we open that up, we can see that we have our Svelte project. Now we have the public folder here, which will be where it's all served. This will be our Svelte app. This will be our entry point. So we'll put Svelte Counter here, and in here you'll find that we're using Rollup instead of Webpack, and essentially it's just a different way to configure your website, very similar to Webpack, and this is what Svelte uses. So if we go to source, we'll see this new file called app.svelte. So what is a Svelte file? Well, a Svelte file is essentially a component. In Svelte, an application is composed from one or more components. A component is a reusable, self-contained block of code that encapsulates HTML, CSS, and JavaScript written into a Svelte file. And all of that is using a superset of HTML. Now the Hello World example in this code editor is a simple component, and we'll see that here. Component. And a component is a reusable, self-contained block of code that encapsulates HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Now, in the Svelte file, the HTML is using a superset of HTML, so it's adding on top of it, and it's adding a lot of custom things that Svelte adds to it, so like reactivity, animations, and logic. In this Hello World example that we've cloned down or copied down, we can see a lot of the basics already in here. And as you can see, the order of script, style, and HTML tags is normally done like this. So we normally have a script tag at the top. We have the HTML. Now you're probably looking at this and you're seeing that, oh yeah, there's a script tag, there's a main. So you're probably looking at this and you're thinking, oh, this is a little odd. There's a script tag here and there's a style tag. So in Svelte, because it uses native JavaScript and CSS, it uses the style tag and the script tag to put in the styling and the logic into the component via the tags. Now there isn't a set order that you put these in, but normally it goes script, style, and then HTML. So it would normally be like this, but you can do it any way you wish and whichever way you find most comfortable. It doesn't matter. So what we're going to do is we're just going to delete all of this and we're going to start building our app. So let's get rid of this and let's just start from the basics. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a count app. So let's set the count variable to a 0, and we'll create a function that will handle the click event. And we'll just make a normal function, and we will say that every time you click the function, it increments by 1. Very simple, very straightforward. And then we don't need any styling, so we can get rid of that. And if we go here to the HTML, we can change that to a button. So you don't have to have any container HTML like in React, like you need fragments or something like that to contain multiple elements. It should be fine. Now, again, like we said earlier, that Svelte uses a superset of HTML, and you can see it here. So if we want to add a on-click handler, we can assign the function that we've created above from the script tag. So what we'll do is we'll now bind our count variable that we've created above and have a very simple ternary statement here to check to see if it's been clicked, and if so, we'll increment it by 1 and we'll set the time here. So we save that. So now that we've done this, let's make sure all our npm modules are installed. Now that that's done, let's run the server. Now that that's done, let's run the project with npm run dev. So if we have a look at the Svelte component that we've created, we've essentially created a count component that checks for how often that you click the button. Now if we click this a few times, we can see that it works. Very simple to get into, very easy and straightforward, and because of its simplicity and its use of native JavaScript and native HTML, it's very easy to get into. So let's update this now with some native Svelte reactivity. Just take it to that next level and show you a bit more of the power of Svelte. And we'll do that using the Svelte label syntax. So let's go up here, let's keep this function, and just above here, we are going to add some Svelte reactive labels. So essentially what this is going to do is tell the browser that we want to rerun these when these values change. So if we go here and we do that, and what we want to do is we want to have it so that we can double and quadruple it. And then in the button here, we can just amend this to say count is labeled for count. And down here, we will add some paragraph elements. We'll add the count again, and we will multiply it by 2, and we'll say that is equal to our double label. And if we copy that, we'll do the same for quadrupled. Let's just tidy this up. So if we now have a look at the project, we can see that it's immediately updated. So as we can see, Svelte automatically reloads any changes in its running of the project. So if we click this, this should now change reactively, and boom. So every time a value changes in Svelte, we can tell Svelte that we want that to change on the DOM as well. And there you go. And that's all using these dollar symbols, which is, and these dollar symbols are a reactive declaration in Svelte. It's a valid label statement in vanilla JavaScript using the current label syntax, which Svelte interprets to mean rerun this code when any of the reference values change. Svelte currently has no real native preprocess support. That works with full auto-suggestion or auto-completion in your editors, which is a bit of a problem. Svelte does want to implement these natively, and it is planned for the future, and these include things like TypeScript and Sass. Now, there are some community-made modules that fill the gap, such as the Svelte preprocess module by Kaiserman. The link to that module will be in the description as well. Certainly check that out if you do have a play around with Svelte and you want to use some preprocessors like TypeScript or Sass. Svelte is doing something different and is shaking up how building the front end can be. It has no virtual DOM, but still somehow maintains styling scope for your Svelte components. The native reactivity it's baked into the Svelte components is amazing and a great step forward if implementing into native JavaScript. It's very beginner friendly and is a great first framework for juniors to try out, as it uses a lot of native JavaScript and CSS. It has many built-in features like animations that are so simple to implement and are not expensive in the final bundle. There is currently no proper native TypeScript support, but it is in the works. Now this personally worries me about type safety in Svelte projects. The current recommendation is to simply replace TypeScript with JavaScript or industry conventions for organizing types, or modules such as Flow, and that simply isn't good enough. And I think the sooner TypeScript is implemented into Svelte, it'll receive even better adoption in the community. Now Sapper is an amazing Svelte framework for larger apps, and more companies are adopting this. Sapper is becoming a very sought after framework by companies by each passing month. You can now truly become employable by knowing Svelte and Sapper alone. Sapper is essentially Svelte's answer to Next, and it is one of the best features of using Svelte. It does some very clever things, and I would highly recommend you go checking it out. Now Svelte is very fun to try. It does feel deceptively like you're taking a step back with the complete ease in use, but you're certainly not. With any front-end framework, you'll always need to know core JavaScript and CSS thoroughly, and whenever those two get exposed, people start to feel, oh, this must be too easy, oh, there must be something wrong. But it's worth having a look into, and if you are new to front-end, or if you are new to web development, this is absolutely perfect for you. So now Svelte is great for simplifying how the web is written, as we can see in the previous example when we showed the same bit of code written in React compared to reactivity in Svelte. And it's great for dialing back the complexity for juniors. I have no doubt in my mind that Svelte will achieve its goals in changing JavaScript forever and how we do front end going forward in the next few years. Let me know what you thought of Svelte in the comments below. Give this video a like, subscribe, and until next time, stay curious.